Welcome to my YouTube channel Moral Ecos, where silence speaks.
My name is Addison Clark. I am 69 years old. And the day I walked into that bank and saw my own son and his wife trying to withdraw every dollar I had saved in my lifetime was the day I realized something painful. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people who call you dad. But what they didn't know was that I had already seen everything. And what I did next would change all of our lives forever. A lifetime of sacrifice. I wasn't born into wealth. In fact, my childhood was anything but comfortable. My father worked in a small factory, and my mother cleaned houses just to keep food on the table. We lived in a tiny home where winters were cold and summers were unbearable. But my parents taught me something valuable. Addison, my father used to say, money comes and goes, but character stays forever. Those words stayed with me throughout my life. When I was 24, I married the love of my life, Elena. She had the kindest heart I had ever known. We didn't have much money, but we had dreams. Together we built a simple life. And a few years later, our son Michael was born. I still remember the moment I held him for the first time. His tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and I felt something inside me change forever. From that day forward, my life wasn't about me anymore. It was about him. Giving my son everything. I worked harder than I ever had before. I took extra shifts. I worked weekends. Sometimes I worked 2 jobs at once. There were nights when I returned home so tired that I could barely stand. But when Michael ran into my arms shouting, "Dad," every bit of exhaustion disappeared. Elena and I made many sacrifices. We skipped vacations. We delayed buying a better house. We saved every extra dollar. All for Michael. We wanted him to have opportunities we never had. And for a long time, everything seemed perfect. Michael grew into a smart young man. He went to college. He got a good job. And eventually, he met Vanessa, the woman who would become his wife. At first, she seemed wonderful. Polite, friendly, respectful. But sometimes, appearances can be deceiving. Losing Elena. 5 years ago, my life changed forever. Elena became sick. At first, we thought it was just fatigue. But the doctors eventually gave us the news no family ever wants to hear. Cancer. I watched the strongest woman I had ever known slowly lose her strength. Through it all, she never complained. One night, while holding my hand in the hospital, she said something I will never forget. "Addison, promise me you'll take care of yourself." I smiled and nodded. But inside, I knew life would never be the same without her. 3 months later, she was gone. The house became unbearably quiet. The laughter was gone. The warmth was gone. All that remained were memories. My son, help. After Elena's death, Michael and Vanessa started visiting more often. At first, I thought they were simply worried about me. Vanessa brought food. Michael helped with yard work. They insisted I shouldn't live alone. I appreciated their concern. One evening, Michael sat across from me at the kitchen table. "Dad," he said gently, "you've worked your whole life. You shouldn't have to worry about managing everything alone anymore." I looked at him curiously. "What do you mean?" "Well, your bank accounts, your savings, your bills, it's a lot." Vanessa added softly, "We just want to help." Michael continued, "Maybe you should add me to your bank account, just in case something happens, that way I can manage things for you." At the time, it sounded reasonable. He was my son. So I trusted him. A week later, I added his name to my bank account. It was a decision I would soon regret. The morning at the bank. The morning that changed everything seemed completely ordinary. I drove to the bank to withdraw some money for house repairs. As I pulled into the parking lot, something caught my attention. Michael's car was parked outside. That was strange. He should have been at work. Curious, I walked inside the bank. And then I saw them. Michael and Vanessa, standing at the teller counter. The teller was counting stacks of cash. Large stacks. My heart suddenly started pounding. I stepped behind a column so they wouldn't notice me. Then I heard Vanessa whisper something that made my blood run cold. "Take everything out," she said quietly. "Once we move the money, he won't be able to stop us." Michael laughed nervously. "Relax, he's old, he won't even notice." My hands began to tremble. Old. That single word felt like a knife. I had spent my entire life providing for him. And now, he was stealing from me. The quiet decision. For a moment, I considered confronting them right there. I imagined walking up to the counter and asking them one simple question. Why? But I already knew the answer. Grade. Instead, I quietly turned around and walked out of the bank. Not because I was weak, but because I had something better in mind. If my son wanted to betray me, I would make sure he learned a lesson he would never forget. The plan begins. Later that afternoon, I returned to the bank. This time I asked to speak with the branch manager. A woman named Mrs. Carter welcomed me into her office. "How can I help you today, Mr. Clark?" she asked. I took a deep breath. "I believe my son is trying to withdraw all my money from our shared account." Her expression immediately turned serious. We spent the next hour reviewing everything. By the time I left the bank, every dollar I had saved over my lifetime had been transferred into a new private account under my name alone. But I wasn't finished yet. Because some lessons need to be unforgettable. The confrontation. 2 days later, Michael burst through my front door. "Dad," he shouted angrily. Vanessa stood behind him with her arms crossed. "Why is the account empty?" Michael demanded. I calmly set down my cup of tea. "Oh, that?" His face turned red. "Yes, that. I moved the money," I said calmly. Vanessa stepped forward. "You had no right." I raised an eyebrow. "No right, it's my money." Michael clenched his fists. "But we needed it." "For what?" I asked. Neither of them answered. Because the truth was obvious. Luxury. A bigger house. A better car. Things they wanted at my expense. The envelope. I walked to my desk and picked up an envelope. Then I handed it to Michael. "Read it." He opened it. His eyes widened. "You changed your will." I nodded slowly. "Every dollar I have will now go to charity." Vanessa gasped. Michael looked stunned. "But Dad," I raised my hand. "You already showed me who you are." The moral. Life teaches us many lessons. But one of the most painful is this. Not everyone who calls you family truly respects you. Love should never be mixed with greed. And trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair. I spent my life building a future for my son. But in the end, I realized something important. Money can be stolen. But dignity and wisdom cannot. And sometimes, the greatest inheritance a parent can give their child is a lesson about integrity.
If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because every story here leaves behind a lesson.